parents' house. Whoops, wrong overlay. And so I was like, I'm just gonna let my mom take them. And they can run around the big house and play with the kitten. Because I also want them to play with the kitten before she gets too old and they get like more hostile towards it. So I'm gonna... My cats are going to be MIA for a week. Next week. You guys won't be able to give them treats. Alright, so we're finally ready to go. And surprisingly, I'm the only person in here to cast this. Patience, hopefully will reward us with some very good games. In the bottom left is the blue Terran. He is HeRoMaRinE. In the top right is the red Protoss. We have Skillous. So, these could be good games. I believe in Skillous' potential to give us some close calls. But, undeniably, HeRoMaRinE is a very good player in these open cups. And his TvP, specifically, seems to be almost cutthroat in its perfection sometimes. Skillous has a way of kind of taking damage here and there and then kind of scrambling together a defense and making a otherwise one-sided game look a little bit closer, but I'm not sure he actually has it in him to win against HeRoMaRinE. That said, HeRoMaRinE did not do well last week. He did play last week, and he lost to, I think, a Protoss player. Although I don't remember who right now. So, I mean, a little bit of weakness has been shown by our German Terran. A little bit, anyways. I still believe him to win. So, not much to write home about for the start here. It's on Pillars of Gold, so a map that we are familiar with. Oh, that's what I was gonna do. We're gonna learn together. We're gonna learn what the map rush distances are. If I can find them. Hold on. Did they not show up on the actual tournament page? I guess they don't. Alright. Take me to the maps. Take me to the maps. Alright, let's search Pillars of Gold. Got a Stargate opener versus a very cautious bunker and then a factory going on. So again, pretty normal stuff. Current ladder maps. There it is. Alright, so Pillars of Gold. Rush distance of 37 seconds. Now, I believe that is, like, officially a worker from here to here, or here to there, or something like that. So 37 seconds. And then Death Aura is 39. Jagannatha is 35. Lightshade is 33. Oxide is 36, Romanticide is 35, and Submarine is 33. Wow! So, Submarine and Lightshade are actually the same rush distance. It did seem kind of short when I was watching the engagements. Like, how fast they went to each other's bases, but... I guess because it's maybe a bit bigger left to right. So it always makes it a little bit more deceiving. Anyways, We'll pay attention to that as we hit the new maps. So, Helen looking around for proxies. Reaper looking around for proxies. The actual threat is coming right down the middle of the map, though. Oracle on the way. HeRoMaRinE and Marines are available, but not planted, as HeRoMaRinE has no idea it's a Stargate. Nothing has told him that. So this Oracle could actually get some damage done. It's going to see a HeRoMaRinE not burrowed, and then figure a second HeRoMaRine's coming out only just now. And he would be absolutely correct about that. So, while an Oracle is no longer scary, really, when it's not known about, getting 4 SCVs is actually a pretty nice start. You know, if it 2-shot workers like it did 4 years ago, it's definitely 8 or 10 workers killed. But if it was that long ago, HeRoMaRinE would have default put his HeRoMaRinE in the main in case it was an Oracle. But anyways, so 4 SCVs plus Revelation, actually a pretty nice start for Skillous. The Stargate doesn't do very much else though right now. Oh no, because he's Chrono. I was like, well, I guess he's not going to Phoenix. No, he's actually supply blocked. So a very awkward Chrono. He is actually going into Phoenix. So it's going to be perhaps Phoenix Charge with a third Phoenix on the way, and a Twilight Console. I'm going to guess that's right into Charge. If he goes into Blank, seems a little redundant and even, I would say, dangerous, and I would have to see it in action to see kind of what the point would be. So, it's going to need the minerals first, though. I was getting gateways. Fairly fast third Nexus, actually, is worth noting as well. He had to go for a Stargate into third Nexus very quickly. Skipped both of his gases and his natural. So, very gas-light stuff here. But if you can get just a handful of Phoenix to stop drops, pick up important units, and then a hell of a lot of Zealots, I mean, it works out pretty well, at least in the early to mid-game. Right now, the problem is that he kind of wants to have charge lots now to deal with this push, and that's clearly not going to be the case. Gateways are finishing up, and shield batteries will be prepared. Phoenix can still help lift these important units, such as the tank and the Widowmines. But Skillous isn't quite ready to receive this yet. He's going to have to buy a little bit more time, a couple more warp-ins. And that's could be dangerous. Probe's going to have to be pulled here. No, actually, you know, HeRoMaRiNE's not going to dig into the third base. I do think they're going to always be in trouble, though. So, yeah, Skillous is just like, going to micro them every now and again.
Resubscription received.
That is actually 2 shield batteries, but they're going to have an overcharge. And I like the second pylon because it's also powering all this stuff. And you know what? HeRoMaRiNE's going to respect that. He's not really getting a lot done right here, right now, and he knows that inevitably more Zealots will come in, and also that charge will finish up, which it is literally in 5 seconds finishing up. Phoenix is trying to find whatever they can. Looks like they took out the Widowmine specifically. One's actually left over here. And that's going to be an evacuation. Medevac picks up the tank to try and save the day. Vikings on the ground, probably the best that they could do. Tank is dropped, but then lifted by the Phoenix. Marines going to try their best to at least take out the Zealots on the ground. Look like they're not focus firing the Phoenix, not bothering with that. They're taking down the Zealots on the ground. Medevac is the last thing to go down, so those Marines actually were lasting quite some time. Interesting decisions being made there. You can, I mean, I would say usually you might see the Marines actually try and focus fire down the Phoenix, picking up their tank, but that's usually more in a situation where the tank is sieged, and you're holding on to your, your location around their third base. I think that was the right call for him to just tear down as many ground units as possible. The Phoenix are important, but they're kind of just like, I mean, what's the word? They're kind of crowd control, right? Like, it sucks to lose your tanks, but perhaps your least amount of concern is actually on those Phoenix when push comes to shove, which is what Skillous tried to do. He actually tried to push, he tried to shove, but only a limited number of Zealots, no Warp Prism available, and the Phoenix had actually gone home, I guess maybe anticipating a Liberator or a Medevac. So, just a simple SCV pull kind of scared that away. I wasn't too concerned about a Warp Prism. And HeRoMaRiNE did what he does best, which is to take it seriously enough and then immediately identify he doesn't have to and pull back. So, kind of wash us off for now. Well, you can take a general look at the situation now, though. Now that the perhaps intense coulda, woulda, shouldas are done, the whole situation right now, HeRoMaRiNE might not get a lot done on the map. In terms of harassment, he still might have a very good main push, though. His third base really wasn't that fast. It's transferring over now, and it's not even an orbital. He does have better upgrades, though. So Skillous is going to be on unupgraded charge lots and eventually stalkers. But with these Phoenix being also the bulk of his army, again, it kind of comes down to like, well, Phoenix are important. Don't underestimate Phoenix. But if it comes down to dealing with 40 bio units, they're probably not going to be as helpful as the game goes on, right? So, it's tough to consider. The army supply is probably not truly... It's not real, right? This is not an army that's going to just simply hit in the middle of the map and then, like, whoever has more army wins. It's going to be a lot more involved than that. Blink +1 going to be done for Skillous by the time this hits. And Skillous also kudos to his map presence here. Pylons, Phoenix, Probes, Zealots. He's got all avenues covered. He sees the army marching across the map, and that fourth base is going to go ahead and finish. That actually might be, well, if it's immediately focus fired, it could be in trouble. But it also could just be bait. Widowmines burrow up. They're going to get mostly the Zealots, but not too many hits. Okay, their one on top of the Phoenix did a lot more damage. Marauders in the front line, Marines in the back. Plenty of medevacs, even as they're taking damage to heal this bio army through it. HeRoMaRiNE really taking advantage of his 1-1 upgrades against this type of army of Skillous, and that Nexus will in fact fall. Guardian Shield trying to help out the best that it can, but so many Zealots have already died. More being reinforced now as the Archons are really still helping out. They're finally on the front lines. Those Marines are having a tough time taking care of them. And finally, Skillous will be able to push this back. But HeRoMaRinE, even if he does lose the rest of his army, which he will not, saves 2 medevacs worth of units, did kill a 4th base. However, while that was going on, HeRoMaRinE has been dealing with Zealots on his 3rd and now in his main base. A couple of Wood Mines extremely helpful, taking about half of those Zealots out of the equation, but that War Prism still alive. Could it over to the 3rd CC. HeRoMaRinE's economy is still not exactly where it wants to be, even after he killed Skillous' 4th base. One of them is mining pretty reliably on 3 bases, the other one not so much, not yet. And Skillous is actually moving in. Obviously, he's got the War Prism in the main base around the 3rd now. 3rd has to be lifted, but his main army is looking quite small without those reinforcements. He needs to get the actually warping Zealots here. There they come now to help out this arm before HeRoMaRinE can take it down. HeRoMaRinE is reinforcing a lot faster, even with the Warp Prism available, but it's 2 different engagements going down. Wood Mine's about to get some fantastic shots, really helpful. This Wood Mine's in the main base, double the hero right now, and probably going to save his life. The natural is not going so great for Skillous, losing a lot of his important units. And it looks like this will eventually be cleared up, but this is actually much tighter than I thought it was going to be. Skillous, maybe if he actually had used his Warp Prism to just reinforce his main army as opposed to trying to use it to harass the SCVs and maybe catch them from both sides. If he just instead gone for a direct push up the middle, I think it would have been different. You know, the Zealots in the main, they got bopped twice by the Wood Mines. They should have been a lot scarier. But instead of having maybe 4 Widow Mines, you know, not doing anything because the Warp Prism repositioned and attacked from here into here, the 4 Widow Mines actually did their job. They actually took out the Zealots, so maybe a missed opportunity to end the game there. HeRoMaRinE really wasn't on a whole lot of units, and he was getting a little bit spread thin. But Skillous, the bit more fragile army, the one with Stalkers and the Sentries are at the front. And the Zealots were trying to get some damage done on the main and 3rd base, which they did. They did do economic damage, but was it enough is always the question. HeRoMaRinE up against a lot of cotton balls right now. Skillous have been making quite a lot of gas. I'm not sure you can actually push into that. If there was a single EMP, it might be really different, but without the EMP, it could be very difficult to do. Guardian Shield also still available, so Skillous good about rebuilding his sentries. Kind of important against, against in general Terran armies, right? But especially with how clutch and close this game has been, Guardian Shield will be very, very helpful. 3rd CC is kind of low. I'd actually be worried if the Zealots tried to target fire that, but the Zealots don't get too much time on that 3rd. Skillous not only good at rebuilding his Sentry, but also fantastic at rebuilding his Warp Prism. Doesn't manage to save it. The missile turret gets helped by the couple of Marines. Engagement in the middle of the map, but once again we have that weird situation where Skillous is using the bulk of his army to attack, but then his Warp Prism is being used to harass, and is that really the best thing for him? Again, question mark, I'm not actually sure. His harassment this time has garnered 20 plus SCVs worth of damage, and that does seem to be quite worth it. But HeRoMaRinE's army at 30 above his opponents, equal upgrades, and he is charging down to at least grab this 4th base once again. Problem is, those Archons, the tricky thing is that the Archons don't exactly have range, so a good concave against them could be effective. When they do get up close, and they're almost assured to do, because they have so much health, they will tear through the bio without the EMPs to help, but they actually need to get to the main base. A big old Doom drop into the main, which Skillous tried to stop. He warped in a couple Stalkers, but they do not actually compete against the bio once it's fully unloaded. Overcharge tried to help as well, and a single cannon as well, but that's not going to quite clear it up. Archons don't want to come in single file, and they're going to recoup, which means that HeRoMaRinE just moves over to the 4th base. A couple of units were over at that 3rd, I believe, but they're cleaned up. Zealots are at HeRoMaRinE's 3rd base right now, getting even more SCVs, and I do believe that HeRoMaRinE is running out of steam. He picks up again in his medevacs, but loses a couple of them, and Skillous is able to take the first game in a much closer, much different game than I was anticipating. GG. Thank you, Complistic, for the 2-month resub, as well as Kilo for the 12 months. Hey. I needed to be more warmed up for this. I needed to be warmed up and standing. I did not expect so much to happen. That game got crazy. I mean, it's, when did it all start? When did it all start? I guess it kind of started with the first push after the Phoenix defense. And then the Zealots coming through the middle. I mean, he backed away pretty quickly, but that kind of started, I guess, what ended up being a trend, which was Skillous just looking for any possible opening in HeRoMaRiNE's defense and trying to really push it, almost like finding a trigger point, you know? And I was a little worried he was being a little too overzealous. When the Warp Prism in the main got its Zealots mostly destroyed by Widow Mines, wasn't actually racking up the SEV kills, I was like, oh, I don't know, maybe he's over-investing into this. But even as the, I guess, Zealots weren't getting a lot of SCV kills directly, they were probably chopping up reinforcements I wasn't really able to see, and they were definitely denying mining, which meant that HeRoMaRiNE, A, never really got to full saturation 3 bases. His third was always, like, somewhat saturated, and that B, like, he never actually... he never actually was mining, even with the 55 SCVs I think he was at, so... Low SCVs and not mining very well means that he could afford to produce an army of decently upgraded bio, which almost was enough, but he couldn't actually transfer over into EMPs, which is what he really needed since Skillous's gas bank was growing so large. So at the end of the day, I guess it worked out. I would still say it was a bit scary, though. Especially if Skillous wasn't so on point about reproducing the other Warp Prism. I want to say second, but it might have been the third or the fourth. The Warp Prism that ended up killing like 15, 20 SCVs. If he hadn't immediately reproduced that, I think it is a very different game. Here, I mean, it's more time to chill, to get up, 10 more SCVs, and to actually get into a Ghost Academy, at which point Skillous' army would be a little weak, since he hadn't started researching Storm. But, or getting into double robo as well. Obviously, EMP does a Storm as well, but I'm saying that Skillous' army was kind of one-dimensional at the end there. You know, there wasn't the Storms carried by a Warp Prism that scared HeRoMaRiNE. There was literally just a bunch of Archons that, you know, it's... If you're up against some Joe Schmo on the ladder, you're probably just, like, angry at them. Because they're like, oh, cool, like, Archons are really cool, yeah, this is so cool. But... when you're in the professional standards, like, A, Skillous's, that was his bank, that's what he could make, and that's the most powerful thing he could make, and then B, if HeRoMaRiNE did have, I guess, more control over the game, he not only is getting concaves on them, he's also getting EMPs on them, and when the EMPs hit Archons, they go from really fearsome to itty little bitty cotton balls. It's not a big deal. It's not a big deal, so... Would have been a very easy fight if you had 3 ghosts, I think. Yeah, maybe not easy. Easy might be too strong of a word, but would have been easier. And that's when his 30 army supply lead would have actually been a 30 army supply lead. Got a little bit of a change up here on Lightshade, which again, we just learned is apparently the same rush distance as Submarine. So you go to Submarine and we're like, oh, it's so small, oh my god. Submarine, I think, is still smaller as far as top to bottom, you know, the actual complete size of the map. But sometimes people use the word small instead of short, right? Or rushy, or whatever you want to say. Apparently, natural to natural, same distance. So that is worth knowing, I guess, for the future. Not really so important for this game. We do have a proxy Dark Shrine with a proxy gateway to instantly warp in. From about midway, I guess, a little bit closer to HeRoMaRiNE's base, kind of. And, that is not going to be found out. HeRoMaRiNE got in there and saw a Twilight Council, but he didn't get back in to see if it was researching or not. He doesn't get back in to see if it's, gateways and robo and appropriate timing. But he is still scouting around. He did this last time, too, and his scout finally rewards him, sees a proxy gateway. And at this time, I think you would assume that it is a Dark Shrine up there, which he sees now. So Engineer Beto's down, but, it's not going to be done quite yet, so he's got to stack up a scan. This would have, it's going to hit around 445, so it's it's likely HeRoMaRinE would have had one scan anyways for the just in case, because most pro Terrans do that around from 4:30 to 5 is kind of like a typical time. So it probably wasn't super scary, but what gets scary is if they're not paying attention, and then one DT also gets into the main, and suddenly not a big deal becomes an, oh shit, I didn't have a second scan. So this has been completely dealt with, but at this point, I kind of feel like Protoss players are even a little bit, I mean, I want to say used to? Oh, a single What am I just did a bunch of damage. Well, 3 probes isn't a bunch, but it's some damage. Anyways, I want to say that they're used to their, oh no. So Protoss players are a little more used to having their DT openers be a thing, right? Be like a macro thing. Kind of almost started with like Zest and TSL. And then there was a lot more DT openers that actually went into long macro games. That said, you still don't want such a terrible start like this. I mean, not only did the DTs get pushed back, you also lost the Warp Prism, which actually gave you that threatening stance. Mobility and harassment, and, well, it's not good. Gonna clear up the Dark Shrine, which I think is very worth it. At least the pylon of the Dark Shrine. The gateway can probably say where it is. Skillous goes into a third and has Colossus on the way with Blink as well. He's obviously later to these normal macro things than he would be if he had not started off with the Dark Shrine. So he's later to the technology, he's gonna have fewer units, and HeRoMaRinE is going to have a hell of a time abusing that. It's possible that Skillous splits perfectly and handles everything about as perfectly as possible, and the game does continue on, but certainly Skillous is behind. He knows that, HeRoMaRinE knows that, and it is one of those situations where, like, hypothetically do everything perfect from here on out, maybe it won't matter, but it's so unlikely that you will handle everything well. Especially since Skillous doesn't actually see the drop coming in from the left side. Single Soccer was put here to deal with the Raven, so that's not going to do very much against the double drop. And while this forces Skillous to panic and recall, HeRoMaRinE has another army that is seen heading off into the third, which is currently completely undefended and no recall available. Yeah, so this might be the tap out, actually. I think this might be tap out time. Like, this is way too much damage to take. Double drop left, comes back in, drop to clear up the Dark Shrine, goes into the natural, and this push does in fact get the Nexus. I'm not sure how you would have perfectly defended everything here. GG. So HeRoMaRinE quickly snaps back and gets the 1-1. Skillous certainly chose a risky opener, but as I was saying, like, there was definitely a period of time where Protoss players were opening it as if Maru opens up with the 2 rocks. Is it not the best way to open? You know, sure, technically, but can it be an opener? Yeah, apparently. But then also losing the Warp Prism is such a big deal. I mean, in the same way, I guess, hypothetically, Skillous defends everything perfectly, which I'm not even sure about that anymore. As long as HeRoMaRinE didn't just, I guess when I say that, I do mean that more that hypothetically HeRoMaRinE tries to bulldozer as opposed to be smart. I guess is more what I'm saying. Because if HeRoMaRinE had just sent all of his army through the middle, a couple force fields, maybe snipes the Raven, so the Colossus aren't taken out of the equation, like that's when you start the comeback. But HeRoMaRinE is a very smart player, so of course he wouldn't do that. But anyways, yeah, if, in the same way that could have happened, Skillous and actually having a Warp Prism, keeping that alive, means that what could have happened was that he could have at least stopped HeRoMaRinE from pushing out as aggressively, as confidently. He could have at least gotten a couple SCVs to maybe throw a question mark into the tap-out potential. He could have gone into even, I guess, I don't think he would have, but I was like, he's gonna follow up with disruptors. That would have been cool. It would have been a bunch of question marks, and it would have been something for HeRoMaRinE to worry about. But HeRoMaRinE taking that out is like completely no worry whatsoever. So it just was a real bummer of an opening there from Skillous. From being scouted to not getting a single DT in to getting his 4% killed. And yeah, as long as HeRoMaRinE was willing to split up his army and not run right into stalkers or right into force fields, he was gonna win that one. They come up on Jagannatha for the game 3 map. Bottom left is HeRoMaRinE. Top right, it is Skillous. So Jagannatha is 35-second rush distance, which puts it at a shorter rush distance than a map such as Death Aura. It's also shorter than Pillars. It's also shorter than Oxide, so it's actually one of the shorter maps. So the shortest maps are Submarine and Lightshade. The next shortest maps are Jagannatha and Romanticide. And then, the other ones are those two. Bit of a bunker block in the natural. I haven't seen this in a while. We, you know, occasionally see the bunker in the back. But this, if it actually hadn't gotten the Reaper in for some reason, if the Reaper hadn't actually gotten in, you could actually leave it and deny the best mining possible in the natural. It's very small, but it is a thing. But of course, it's more so for the Reaper being stuck in there. So that forces them to get a shield battery. Their production on the Nexus doesn't have to stop, but they do have to re-rally the probe elsewhere. And they do maybe have to get an extra unit that they maybe would not have otherwise. Like, I usually get 3 gateway units before Warp Gate is done, but I'm just gonna bust this with 2, it looks like. Maybe focus on the probe. Yeah. SCV is being focus fired, so it was saved. Could try and repair a little bit more, but he's not gonna bother. Bunker gets salvaged, SCV dies, Reaper lives to get another scout into the main, because it does need one. And, Skillous does have a probe over here that I was like, would you do a Dark Shrine again? I don't think so, so it's just gonna head into the natural and see what it can see. You know, if it had seen 2 Hellions pop out, that would have been absolutely perfect timing. As it is, it didn't even see the single Hellion pop out, but oh well. Okay, a 3rd probe might die. Okay, barely saved, barely saved. So in total, 4 probes went down for the price of an SCV and a salvage bunker, with the Reaper being the given trade. We knew that was gonna die. Single gateway and a single robo means that Skillous is really not planning on being threatening. He's gonna, and he saw that it was no bunker, so he's kind of being a little cheeky, if anything. Like, one of my drops are going to come for a little while. Bunker wasn't prepared, so let me try and get a couple of Marines. But we know that there's nothing on the way. Now, this is now seen by HeRoMaRinE, who's Helen gets into the main. So that's actually kind of awkward. This is actually super awkward. The Stalkers are going to avoid the 1 Widow Mine, but this Helen actually just got 5 probes. 6 probes? Oh, it's not targeting fire anymore. This HeRoMaRinE has pulled his SCVs. I mean, this is just kind of awkward for both players, isn't it? 6 probes go down, but that's before the drop even hits. And Skillous is only on 2 gateways, and oh my god, Skillous isn't paying attention! Stalker goes down. Oh no, Skillous. Oh, not like this. Oh, Skillous, I'm not sure you're using your Stalkers to attack was actually the right call. Oh god, 16 probes went down. And now 1 of the 2 gateways will be depowered. Blink will not finish up. And the tank will clear up the Stalkers, no problem. Skillous has lost this game. So, oh man, yeah, one of the downsides of being aggressive like that with your stalkers is that, you don't have them on your side of the map to deal with anything, right? And that's obvious, that's a given, like, oh, way to be smart, ZombieGrub, but usually it's not such a big deal. If it's a double Widowmine drop, then you just pull your probes and, you know, recall or reinforce at your earliest convenience, and it's like not a super big deal. The problem with this was that it was a Hellion far faster than Skillous was anticipating because the scout missed it. And then it was Marines with the Widowmine, which, I mean, even though they don't have combat shields or stim, it's just a little bit of that extra consistent DPS that means Skillous takes the damage that he does. And this has turned into a straight-up disaster. Pretty much all because Skillous was tempted to abuse the no bunker, no ramp natural. It kind of goes back down to that. It does also suck that he chose to go for 2 gateways instead of 3. You know, that could have been a big difference. But, I mean, he also could have, you know, actually paid attention to his mineral line when that would have might came in. Yeah, I mean, I think ultimately it comes down to Skillous' choices. HeRoMaRinE didn't really do anything super fancy build-order-wise for the beginning. Now he is. Now he's being a little fancy, pushing these tanks and all that. But the opening was a regular opener for him. And the choices he made, I think, were more in response to what Skillous made, so. GG. HeRoMaRinE takes the 2-1.